Hi, I'm Donna Davis here with Richard Cole, the founder of Cole's Wild Bird Products, here to answer all of your birding questions. We really want to encourage you to take part in this and ask your questions. You have a real expert here, someone who has devoted many years to everything about the birds. So please post about where you're watching from. And really quickly, I'll go over the topics we're going to go over today. We're going to talk about hummingbirds, nesting season, and woodpeckers. So you'll want to stay tuned throughout that. And Richard, thank you.
Oh, it's always nice to be here.
Yeah. So
Good.
first of all, let's talk a little bit about the hummingbirds. We're getting springtime close to it.
Everybody gets excited about the hummingbirds. When are my hummingbirds going to show up? They're on the way. In the south, they're moving into South Georgia, South Alabama, and over in the west, the southern states now. As you move on up a little bit, by mid to late March, you should expect to see some in the southern areas. And as the weeks progress, you'll see more and more moving through here and reaching further and further north. So within a month and a half now, they'll be all the way up into Canada, and at least close to Canada for the breeding season, nesting season. And don't expect to see a lot at first because they're moving through here. They're trying to get to where their breeding grounds are. They don't have time to hang out at your feeders. They'll take a quick sip. They're out of here, so you might not see much. And we start getting a lot of calls, especially down in April, about where are my hummingbirds. I had tons of them last year, but they're gone. They're not here this year. And you had tons of them probably in the latter part of summer, very early fall, when the breeding season's over. They're all moving south in hordes, and there's a lot more because all the babies are with them. So the population's basically twice as much. So yeah, you're going to see a lot more. Their behavior has changed by the fall also. It's not hurry up to get to the breeding grounds. It's slow down, eat as much as you can to get ready as you move south for migration to get ready for the long haul back to Central America where you'll spend the winter, or the northern winter. You'll spend it down there. So you'll see more birds. They'll hang out more. So it's coming. The hummingbirds are almost here.
Is it time to put out your feeders? If you live in the south, should you go ahead and put out the feeder or just wait?
Oh, you should have had it out all year.
Oh, well, you should have had it out all year.
You should always have a feeder out. It's in the wintertime. There are some birds that will spend the winter in certain areas of the U.S., and you may or may not get one. But there's always a chance, no matter where you live, to see a bird in the wintertime who decided that that's a good place to spend the winter. And especially in the more southern states, we have quite a few hummingbirds, mostly western species, that move into the southeast to spend the winter. And some further southeast. There's been some in New Jersey. And they can survive, especially if they get a little extra sugar water, and they can find gnats and all in the wintertime, and there's little spiders around plants to eat, and they'll survive. So keep one out. You'll have a chance to see one. It's not likely, but whoa, what a deal if you do.
Yeah, so my goal with the hummingbirds this year is to try to get one to land on my finger. So you have some great tips on how do you get a hummingbird to land on your finger? Because you've done it, I know.
Yes.
I think it's a great goal, too. Don't you think?
It's not hard. It's not that hard to do. It takes a little patience. Have a hummingbird feeder. The way I recommend doing it is a lot of ways. On your porch or out near where your feeder is in the yard, just sit up a lawn chair or something that's comfortable for you to sit in. Have the feeder there on a hanger. Just be real still. The birds will come to it. After the bird comes to it just a little bit, wave your hand, make a motion, look at the bird, it'll spook and run off. It'll be about 5 minutes, it'll come back again, which time you've moved a little closer, or you move the feeder a little closer to you. And you just go through this process. It may take 15, 20 minutes, maybe half an hour. You've gotten real close to the feeder, pick it up and just hold the feeder. Or if it's right up here, bring it down where you're at arm's length. Make sure your hand's propped up so you don't die from muscle strain holding it. Just be comfortable and hold the feeder. Don't look at it. Don't look at the bird. Just keep your head off to the side. You can look to the side, but don't face directly at it. They key on eyes. They know what eyes are. And if the bird comes down to drink, let it have just a sip, then move the feeder. It'll fly off a minute. It'll get more and more comfortable coming, and you'll make it take more trips because it can't sit there, fill up, and not come back for half an hour. So this way you can get it to come back and forth. It'll get very used to you. I've done this with a new bird in as little as 10 minutes, in some cases 30 or 40 minutes to get a bird to come.
It really takes patience.
Most people can do it, though. It is patience, and just give them time, let them get comfortable with you. Once they see there's food there, they know what the feeder is, because they've been coming to it. It's just moved. They got to get used to you. Then they'll start coming. Then just slowly, after a time or two, get your finger up by the perch, and they'll finally just come in and land right on your finger and feed. You've probably seen some videos where people have nectar in the palm of their hand, and they'll finally come to that. Different ways you can do it. But the mechanism is simply let them come slowly, get used to you. Don't move too quick. Don't look directly at them till you get them used to it. Then you can look at them. You'll find out what spooks them and what doesn't.
Is it best to be alone? Does it matter if there's another person outside with you?
It probably doesn't matter. I usually have done it alone. If there's more than one person, just everybody has to be a little still and don't make sudden movements. They've got to get very used to the new environment, and there's something there like you, and it's moving. Once they do, it's okay. Just as long as everybody can be still.
Yeah. Oh, that's such great advice.
One other thing,
What a
it's
great
always
thing.
good, by the way, to do this late in the afternoon when they're ready to tank up before they go to bed. Midday, they're out chasing insects, which is their main diet, and probably not as likely to worry about getting in there to get the food with something strange. Just in the afternoon, when they really want to feed, the pressure's on them to eat something before bedtime, you got a better shot at it.
That's great. I can't wait to try it, and I can't wait for them to arrive. So next, let's talk about woodpeckers. So this is one of the things that we see that people are most interested in, and we've had it lately, woodpecker pecking away on the house. What can you do about it?
That's an interesting subject. It's hard to stop the woodpeckers. I always tell people, we go into the forest, we cut down all the trees, and we put a big piece of wood up there that's painted brown or gray like a piece of dead wood, and then wonder why the woodpeckers are hitting on it. There's two reasons the woodpeckers will pound on a house or your gutter. One is a territorial call, like a songbird will sit out there and sing their song to announce their territory. This is mine, this is where I want to raise a family, and hello females, I'm right over here. So that's why they sing. The woodpeckers don't sing like that. They may make a call or two, but they drum. You'll hear that trrrr, or slower if it's a bigger woodpecker, pounding on something that makes as loud of a resonant sound as they can. Gutters are fantastic. Chimney boxes are pretty good. So you'll hear that drumming on something that makes a lot of noise. That's their territory. That'll subside in a few weeks, maybe 3-4 weeks max. It'll probably be like a 2-week period where you hear a lot of it. And that's it for the year.
Really?
And they won't do any damage.
Yeah.
They're not going to hurt your gutters. They're not going to really hurt your chimney boxes by drumming or under the downspot on a soffit or something, anything that makes noise. Two reasons they'll do damage. One, these guys live on insects. They drill holes in trees and things looking for bugs, larvae especially. So you'll see up under a deck railing or in skinny pieces of wood, they'll come in here and drill a series of little holes looking for, especially carpenter bees. My house has been attacked several times, not the main part, but around the little pieces of wood on the deck and up under the deck, wherever a carpenter bee has gotten in, drill a little hole in a tunnel, the woodpeckers come along and start knocking a hole into that tunnel to eat the larvae. So that's not on the side of your house, typically. It's generally on your deck railings and all. So you'll see a series of dotted holes or little strips, horizontal or vertical, where they're trying to get out some insects. It has been reported that if some people have had like a little ticking clock right inside in their kitchen, right next to the window, and you'll have some woodpeckers pounding on the trim around the window trying to get to that, what they think is a bug inside because they hear the little noise like an insect moving inside of a chamber. The other thing is nesting cavities. They want to nest, and the woodpeckers drill a big hole, excavate it out of a dead tree, so they can go in and start their breeding season right there in a nest, and basically like a nest box in a tree. You typically will see a large round hole, maybe like this or not much smaller than this. It'll be round, be on the side of your chimney where this is a nice piece of dead tree, and they knock a hole in it. They may or may not use it depending on what's inside. If there's insulation and a horizontal board right in there, voila, they've got a great nesting box right there. It's hard to stop them because they're not down where you can walk around and shoo them. I've told people a lot of different things. One, just harass them. You know, don't even think about shooting them or harming them because that's illegal, and you wouldn't want to do it anyhow.
All right.
But you can go out and harass them. As soon as you hear the start, go out there and just shout at them. Wave your arms. Jump up and down. One of my favorites, I like to throw ice cubes. You can throw an ice cube, you hit the chimney box close to where they are, it scares them off. You don't have to pick up the ice cubes, they'll go away.
Yeah.
They're not,
they can make
not
some
an
noise
environmental
and
hazard.
be scary. But
So you harass them for a while, they'll probably give up and move on. If you catch that too late and you can't scare them off and it's too far, get a ladder, get something, get up and just put a piece of plastic or tarp over the area. It doesn't have to be super big, 3-4 foot square. Tack it up there temporarily until they quit and go away. You can take it back down. Hopefully they haven't done much damage by that time.
yeah, that's a great idea because they're not going to get the sound they want. If they're doing it for territorial, and they're not going to get to anything, so they're going to get like annoyed with the plastic. Right.
If they're trying to drill a hole, they can't cling onto a slick tarp or a little clear piece of plastic. Just staple it up there temporarily for a couple of weeks until they go away and decide that's not a part of a dead tree that they can actually put something in, so they give up and go away.
Yeah. I think they're beautiful, though. They actually do peck around our house, but I don't really mind. I don't know of any damage they've done. So let's talk about the nesting boxes now, a nesting season. So we got to get ready for the whole season. And how do we do that?
Well, hopefully you've already had some birdhouses up for maybe a month or so now. Some birds are already building nests, so we're well into the season. Bluebirds will build nests and raise young or attempt to 2, 3, in some cases 4 times during the breeding season, which is underway now. Birdhouses, we hear the term all the time, birdhouses, and we don't think about what we're saying. They're not really houses in the strictest sense. They're nesting boxes. Birds don't live in them, as we do in a house. They're simply there to provide a place to raise young. Only certain birds use birdhouses, and it's those who take advantage of natural cavities and secure places to raise their young. A lot of birds build nests out on tree limbs and things. Robins put a little mud and a little pine straw, build a nice nest out in the open. Bluebirds, chickadees, titmice, and a lot of these birds, and of course woodpeckers, are primary cavity nesters. They drill their own holes. Come in behind that, bluebirds and some of these other guys will use those cavities for their own nesting purposes, or just a nook and cranny somewhere. We found out, or humans found out a long time ago, that if you put up a box with a little hole in it, they will use it.
Yeah.
Bluebirds were on the verge of going extinct, not that close, but they were certainly endangered 60 or 70 years ago. They've come back. A lot of people started putting out birdhouses to give them a chance to have a place to raise young. It's been successful. There's a lot of bluebirds out there now, and they're very used to going to nest boxes. Here we already see just a typical bluebird nesting box. The hole in that box is 1.5 inches, and don't get too carried away with what size the hole is. It's like, somebody came up a long time ago and says, all right, for the eastern bluebird, 1.5 inches is what they have to have. Western bluebird is slightly different from that, by the way. And then you see other things with smaller holes. Oh, that's for chickadees and titmice. And then a lot of people just say chickadees or possibly wrens. It's much smaller. The thing is that the smaller birds will take a bluebird box. It's fine with them. Humans make up things sometimes. And they say, well, the chickadee has to have this size hole, or the bluebird has to have that size hole. And the only way it really makes sense like that is a bluebird can't get into a chickadee size hole. It's too small for them. So in that regard, the hole size has a purpose, but it stops a bluebird from using the box. And if the bluebird comes along and wants a box, it can't get into a chickadee box. A chickadee can get in a bluebird box. And I found a long time ago when I did things like that, I'd put up, here's a chickadee box with a hole this big, and here's a bluebird box with a hole that big, and the chickadee took the bluebird box.
Yeah.
Put the nest in and says, you're not coming in, bluebird. The bluebird's out of luck.
Yeah.
So I just simply use bluebird-sized
Yeah.
whole houses. Everybody's got a shot at it, and I put up more than one. You can do it the other way, and that's okay too. You'll get a chickadee or something small in the ones with a small hole, and you'll get a chickadee or something small and bluebirds in the one with the large hole. Put the boxes around your house. Don't have just one. When you went shopping for a house, you didn't go to one, say, that's it. No, you looked around till you found one just right. Right location, the right look, the right neighborhood. These birds do about the same thing.
You can see them. You'll see
Yeah.
them looking at one house and
Yeah.
then looking at another. It is so fascinating. I love it.
And I've never figured out exactly what makes sense to that particular bird, and may never. But everybody says, here's a bluebird house. Like I said, the 1.5 inch hole, it's got to be this shape. And a lot of people take and stick it on a tree. The best way for a bluebird house, the best type of bluebird house is one like we were showing that's got roughly a 4.5, 5 inch square floor. It's 8 or 9 inches up to the hole. It's got some ventilation on the side at the top and maybe some holes in the bottom to let air flow through it. And it's got a way to open it up for easy cleaning.
Yeah.
That's a basic box for chickadees, nuthatches, the titmice, of course, strong cavity nesters, and the bluebirds, depending on the hole size. But there's other birds out there that will take cavities. And if you look at what you're seeing there on the screen, the bluebird house, if you take that and make it about 5 times larger, I think we'll have a picture in a few minutes. Right here, it may be more than 5 times larger. This is a huge box, but it's designed to be for a large owl, like a great horned owl or a barred owl. And they will take nesting boxes. This would probably work best on the side of a barn or high on the eave of a house. Even in the sun, it'd be a great location. And just have to mount it carefully to your house because it's a fairly heavy box. And be careful going up that ladder. That's tricky. But you may get an owl. I love this little owl box here.
And
but
who
this
designed this one?
I did. Thank you very much. Some years ago, I was looking for an owl box that would work well. It wouldn't be too terribly big for screech owls. The common screech owls, and there's varieties east and west, is not a large owl. It's not much bigger than a dove, if bigger. It's just stockier. And they will take nest boxes readily if they're available. I've had them on post in a yard, maybe 7 feet up, 8 feet up. I had posted, I had a bluebird house on it, so overgrown in there they wouldn't take it, so I put an owl box on it, and there was an owl in it. They took right to it. I was really surprised because it wasn't high. The others I put up on trees, maybe 10 or 12 feet up, that I could get to easily, but it's not too low. So if you want to try owls, screech owls are easier to attract. For the other owls, a large platform or one of the boxes we showed you before with huge openings, probably on the side of a house is safer. You could mount it on a tree if you could do that. But there's a lot of other birds out there. We just talked about screech owls. Everybody talks about chickadees and bluebirds, the two main. And of course, you can see the titmice a lot in boxes. But there's a lot of different types of boxes. And I think we'll have a picture here in a minute of some of the others. I think
there's a picture. Yeah,
Yeah,
there we
it is.
go. The decorative.
Yeah, no, this is like, what kind of bird is that? It's a little toy stuffed bird or something. But it just brings out the point. There's a lot of birds. You see them everywhere. This is very small, with a huge hole. No way anybody would use it, maybe. You never know. Birds are strange. But you look at this like, okay, there's that. Then there's a lot of other things that are more. You see decorative houses. Be a little careful if you want to use them really. If they're sheet metal or they're really strange or too decorative, they might not make a functional birdhouse, especially if the hole's too small.
Well, if the hole's too big, here's my concern. If the hole is too big, like this one, could snakes and blackbirds and crows and something that might eat the small songbirds' eggs.
Yes, and raccoons. Just get up and reach right in here and pull the nest right out. It's too easy to get to. And it's typically people put them on trees. I try to avoid putting a bluebird box on a tree for those very reasons. One, it's easy for snakes. They love bird eggs. And raccoons, they love bird eggs and birds. to get to. They just hang on the side of the tree, reach right in. There's some ways to prevent that, but it's more difficult. The other thing about having it on a tree is it's generally not out in the sunlight. Believe it or not, the bluebird would love to have a box out in the sunlight on a post in a grassy area. That's where they feed. And you say, well, it's really hot in the sun, and that's exactly what they like.
Really?
Full
When it
sun,
gets so
summertime
hot
in the
there?
south, it's going to get very hot in there. With a little ventilation, the air moves through it, it stays very hot. That's what they like. It helps incubate the eggs.
Oh, interesting.
But that's the best place to put a box is on a post. And on that post, if you have a wooden post, try to find a large metal baffle, like a raccoon baffle, that fits a 4x4 post to stop snakes from getting up there to eat the eggs and stops raccoons from climbing the post. Or if you use a small metal pole, you can put things called tough bird feeder guard. It's an electronic device I'm very familiar with. And it just clamps onto the pole, and it has a battery. And if a raccoon or a snake gets up and touches that thing, it will shock them. It doesn't bother the pole. It's just a device that goes on the pole. And that stops the raccoons and the snakes from getting up to the eggs. Then you can put the pole out in the yard, side yard, backyard. As long as it gets a good amount of sun, you've got a great place for a birdhouse.
Yeah. So a couple of other quick things, and please ask your questions or just write in like where you're watching from. We'd love to get your comments and your questions. We're here every first Wednesday of the month at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So Richard is here to answer all your questions, and you can tell he's such an expert. So please go ahead and comment or ask your questions of Richard. And so we want to go over also that if you haven't cleaned out those boxes, maybe don't, right?
Yeah, I harp on this a lot. When the nesting season's over, late summer, early fall, great time to clean out the box, get the old nest out, and hose it out, open the door, let it dry, put it back. And we do that to stop parasites. And there's another smaller reason, but you get the old nesting material out, and they can start fresh, and it won't have blowfly larvae and things like that may injure the birds and mites. Another thing is the birds don't take the old nest out. So if you have a bluebird box that has that much room between the hole and the floor, and they build a nest to here, the next year they come along and build another nest, they're up to the hole. They'll do it, but the problem is they're then right there where a raccoon can reach in.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. So get the old nest out. This time of year, it's getting a little late. You can check it, but just be careful when you open the box. There may be a bird in it already. If tap on the side of the box, open it up very slowly. If you see a female in her own eggs, just shut the door. Don't worry about it. If there's nobody in there, take a look and see what's in it. If it has eggs in it, we open them up every day and see if there's another egg and see how many eggs there are. And they get very used to us coming to the box. And it's okay. The old thing about if you touch something, the bird's going to smell it. They can't smell that well at all,
Right.
so it don't matter. As long as you don't harass them, you can monitor the nest. But just make sure that, like I said, it's on a post in a sunny location for a bluebird, and monitor it. If you do go to clean it out, if you've cleaned it out before, you know it's a new nest. Leave it alone. If you're in there and it looks like fresh material on top of the old material, leave it alone. If you want to, you can lift up the new material, pull the old material out from under there, throw it away, and lower the nest back down in the hole. It's fine, as long as you don't disturb it too much. They'll straighten it out. If there's eggs in it, just leave it alone.
Is this your favorite time of year with birding? I know that you love birding.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the spring is to me, the mating rituals,
Yeah.
the territorial stuff, and, of course, just watching them find their nesting boxes.
It's certainly more exciting this time of year. I think the thing that gets me thinking about it is I start hearing the spring songs. I hear the calls you haven't heard before. It's not a distress call. Something you hear this singing. This is my territory. I'm great looking. Come on, ladies.
I know.
And you start hearing this, and I don't pay much attention. All of a sudden, it's like, oh, it must be springtime. They're calling already, and that'll start in the south down in February. And in fact, I have, we'll look at it in a few minutes, I have a wren that's already built a nest. It's a full nest, ready to go. I doubt if they'll use it for another 2 weeks.
Yeah,
but it's been up here for a week already.
That. Yeah. Oh, there it is. Yeah.
This right here is a basically like a little shopping bag I got from a bookstore-like thing. And talking about where wrens will nest, I just hung that up there, stapled in the corners, there's a wren nest down inside of it right there.
Oh, that's so cute.
I took an old coat hanger, wadded it up, and stuffed it in there to keep the keep the bag expanded. And it's hung it on the wall. That gets used. It's been used almost every year for 5 years now.
Wow.
And it's, of course, covered. It's underneath. It's not out in the open where it get rained on. But they love to go in garages and under eaves and things like that. The thing you see in the top corner there is on top of a post for the porch, and it's a shelf bracket that you can get at like Lowe's or Home Depot or something that holds a shelf up. And it's got a 90-degree angle in the back. It's got a cute little curve. So I just stuck it up in the corner and glued it down. Then I put some screws in it for a railing, ready-made for a wren to put a nest up on the shelf. And it had it up there. There it is already. This is the one I mentioned that they built, but they haven't used yet.
Yeah.
Maybe another 2 weeks they'll start laying eggs in that box.
So you've covered almost everything about, like, the robins will, make their nest just anywhere. They don't need a box. And the wrens will, and they even, every year we see it, there are questions that people say, like, oh my gosh, they made a nest in my grill. They made a nest in my boat. They will nest wherever they want to, basically.
Nooks and crannies.
Yeah. So how do you make sure that your yard and your territory is appealing in a place where they want to raise their family?
Food, water, shelter. It's the three
No
basics.
clothing, huh?
No clothing.
Their feathers are pretty good.
There's a whole line of products for Kohl's right there. Bird clothing. That's what they need. That's what all life tends to need. An area with there's food. If you're putting out bought food like some of the Kohl's products, good stuff. Sun meats and things for the wren say, this is a good territory. There's abundant food here. They'll build as close as they can. And bluebirds love meats. Water. If you don't have a stream or something very close by or a pond, put a bird bath out there and make sure you clean it out. Put it close to your hose, not out in the middle of the yard where it's super hot and you can't get to it. If it's within 10 feet of where you have a hose, that's great because you can every other day go out there and blow out the old water, put some new water in it, done. Very easy. And then rub it out every now and then. So they'll take baths in water. They bathe all year, by the way. In the wintertime, if they can get through the ice, they'll take a bath to keep their feathers clean. But provide them with fresh water and a shelter. Although the bluebird prefers its box out in an open area on a fence post or something in full sun, other birds don't. But if they have shelter where they can get away, the birdhouse provides shelter for a bluebird. It's on top. It can duck right in. But all the other birds, you want to have something closer to the wood line or in the wood line so that when they're there, they can get away from a predator by going right into the bushes. That's very important with feeders, too. When they're out there feeding, if it's way out in the open, it's not as safe for those birds as it is closer to some trees and bushes they can jump into real quick.
Yeah,
so that's the shelter portion.
Right. Those things are so important. So last year or a couple of years ago, my husband and I had gone on these bluebird trails, right? And they have a lot of places out there with just sticks of wood sticking up out of the ground so the birds can just sit there and watch for the insects, right? So he took a big piece of wood and just put it into the ground out in the backyard. And several of our neighbors took time to tell us, like, you won't grow a tree there. What are you doing? Why are you sticking dead wood into the ground? But we see the bluebirds use it all the time. So I feel like, we're trying to make this area as accommodating. But it's so cute when your human neighbors are like, why are you doing that? But the bluebirds know exactly why you did it.
Well, my neighbors probably don't worry about me anymore. They gave up on me a long time
They're
ago.
probably look at that sack on the side of your house and go, what is he thinking?
I'm waiting for the architectural control committee to say something to me.
That's what I was going to say, what the HOA,
But the thing you just mentioned about putting a stop out there is talking about the different ways that birds feed. The bluebirds, they will sit on a post or on top of their house and forage for insects pretty much at ground level. Mm-hmm. They're looking for something moving, and little gnats and little flies, little beetles to go for. And some of the things like the chickadees and the titmice, very common birds, they'll be up in the limbs looking at things, around in the bushes looking for bugs on there. So each bird has a different place they search for food and a different type of food they typically eat.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to see them work the environment to make a living.
And speaking of that, we're really over time on this, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. We thank all of you for watching, but just make sure you got plenty of food, right? Because when you're raising the babies, you need more than ever, right?
Yeah, as I said last time, this is the time I call just when they need it the most. It's springtime, and it's still kind of cold out there every now and then, and besides, all the new stuff is not out. All the insects aren't out yet. All the seeds aren't out yet. So it's a hard time for them to find something to eat. All the stuff that was abundant in the fall, pretty much gone. So make sure you have food out there for them. Put a little bit out every day. Make sure the feeder's not empty. Make sure it's clean. And if you can't afford to fill it up all the way, fill it up a little bit. But be consistent and provide them with that food. That's part of the 3 things they need. Number 1, isn't it? Food, water, shelter.
Yeah.
And you'll
then
have a
they'll-
lot more birds in your yard.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much, Richard, for being here. And thank you for watching. And we'll see you next time.